All right, welcome into Off the Leash. I am Ashley Holder. We are in week 11 of the NFL football season, but I got some buddies with me, Leah Doherty and OBR's Fred Greetham. We do not have Mark Schwab here today. I don't know what's going on where he's at, but he's busy, but he will be back. Like I said, week 11 of the NFL football season, the Browns taking on the Baltimore Ravens, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about when it comes to this game. They lose this one 23-16. They dropped to 2-8 on the season. But this was our first chance to see Shedeur Sanders. I don't really want to get directly into Shedeur because Dillon Gabriel did play that first half. But, Fred, what did you see from this game today?
You know, it was another game that the one thing you'd say, they're not quitting. I mean, here's a team that's playing to the end. It's just little things continually shoot themselves in the foot. You know, the first drive, they went for it on 4th and 1, got the first down. Cam Robinson was off the line, a pre-snap penalty. Well, then, you know, you had that great punt down to inside the 1. McMillan makes a great, bats it back in, but Chris Edmonds put his foot on the line. The Browns challenged, but there wasn't enough evidence to overturn. You know, it's just little things that make the difference. And, you know, it was great to see Shedeur Sanders get a chance. You saw Myles Garrett have another record day, and it's just somehow, some way, they find a way to come out on the short end of the stick.
And that kind of feels like what we're always talking about, right?
Yeah,
we're always saying they do all these great things. They were right there. They could have won, and then
losing
they just
teams
don't
find ways to lose, and that's where they're at right now. You know, you wanted so much with Shedeur there. He looked over his head until the last drive, and you thought he has a chance to tie the game. And I wondered if they'd gone for 2. You know, win or lose on. He throws it right where he needs to be to LeVar Dane. He catches it, and then the corner knocked it out of his hands before, you know, it was controlled. And so, you know, just little things like that, and you just feel woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's the story of this season.
Well, and really before we even got to Shedeur, I mean, Dillon Gabriel, they were 0 for 6 on 3rd down in the first half, or at least to start off the game. And so think about all those opportunities. If they wouldn't have had to settle for field goals, I would have put them in a much better position. Defense, once again, you talked about Myles Garrett. They were playing lights out. They had made plays on special teams. You know, they got the pick 6. They were doing all the right things, but this offense that continues to get in its own way. They don't help themselves at all.
The most glaring was 3 times in the first half inside the 30-yard line. Grant Delpit recovers a muff fumble on the 6th. They go no yards and kick a field goal. They kicked 3 field goals after having the ball down there. And then, you know, the last time they had to get a touchdown. But they had 4 chances inside the Ravens 30 and came up with 9 points.
And I think that's what you look at. They only had 16 points in that first half, but a lot of that was field goals.
No touchdowns on offense.
No touchdowns on offense. And I just think it's like you look at what Dillon was able to do while he was out there, which wasn't a lot. So, while Shedeur didn't come in because they didn't like the play from Dillon, it still got him in there. But it really still showed to a point that it was still very much a very stagnant offense, right? When you get that ball in the 6, it's like if you do not score here, what is going on? At that point, you have to make something happen. You should have been able to get 6 out of that, get 7 out of that altogether, obviously, rather than going for a field goal. And that's tough. And now, at the same time, I do wonder if the touchback didn't happen, is that a different game? But, of course, we could talk about that all day. We could do that
if they would have converted once on 3rd down to start. Could we have not settled for a field goal? I mean,
that's the difference between a team winning and losing with the Browns. They find ways to lose the game. You make that play, somehow, some way, and take advantage. 3 turnovers. You got 10 points out of it, but you should have had 14 or more, and that would have been the difference in the game. And so it's the same thing week after week. It's a young team, but you just continually see at the clutch time they can't make the play to win the game.
I will say it was nice to see that there was some fight. I think it would be easy when this team, sits at 2-7 coming into this game. It'd be easy to be like, I don't really care and there's not much to play for here. But you really could see offense, defense, like these were guys that were giving it their all. And God, I don't want to say, could you imagine? Because we keep saying that, but it's like they have this in their grasp and then just falls out.
Let it get away, and that's what, the woulda, coulda, shoulda. You think of, this whole season. You can think of 2, 3, 4 games could have went either way, and they let it get away. And until they find ways to win those games, it's going to be the same story. And, it's good to see Sanders out there. It's unfortunate Gabriel gets hurt. There's what comes back, where he has not really practiced with the first team. He even talked about that after. Yeah. And he's one play away. Everybody's saying, what happens? Well, you saw what happens. And he comes out 2 for 2, and then 7 straight incompletions. And then the final drive, he finally looked like he was getting his sea legs. He missed a wide open Isaiah Bond in the end zone. But then he threw a perfect pass to LeVar Arnane, who dropped it when it was all said and done.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move into the Shedeur Sanders conversation. He was 4 of 16, 47 yards, an interception and 2 sacks today. He wasn't stellar, but I think he looked like a 5th-round pick, but at the same time, a 5th-round pick, like you said, that hasn't ran with the ones. And it's funny because that's why people were asking Stefanski week after week after week, are you giving him any reps? I don't see how just giving him any reps was going to set the entire practice back, right? So I think in this case, you want at least your backup to be ready if he does have to go in. And at this point, he didn't have any of those reps, but he still was able to go in there. He was still able to produce, like you said. He was able to feel that rhythm a little bit as he, kept going out there. We spoke to Jerry Jeudy in the locker room. That was something he said that he could see that he was getting a little bit more comfortable, after that first pass, after a couple of incompletions though, but he started trying to find that rhythm, and it's hard to do when you don't essentially practice with these guys at all.
And Kevin Stefanski was asked about that after the game, and he said, look, when your starting quarterback is a rookie and your backup quarterback is a rookie, we're doing everything we can. Our priority is who is starting. And so we are giving all the resources and reps to Dillon Gabriel to get him as ready as we can get him. And then he said if that means, extra time after practice that Shedeur Sanders is getting work, meeting room stuff. I mean, they've told us they schedule every single minute of those guys' days. So it's not like he's not getting work in, but yeah, there's something to be said of not getting work in with the ones. Now, I don't know how their days divvied up. Is it really that big of a deal if he went in there and took 2-3 reps or something during the week just to develop a communication? Fred, you may be able to have more insight on that.
I think the difference is Gabriel and Sanders are they're different styles. Gabriel's more mobile on the run. Sanders more a pocket passer. I think if you had a week to prepare him, I think ideally that's what they wanted to do is let him, pick a start, and let him practice all week because it didn't look like they had plays designed for him. You see where he falls back. He got sacked, 2 bad sacks, 26 yards where he starts running around backwards like he did in the Rams game. You got to get plays where it's right when he started. Boom, quick 5-yard out to Tillman and let him get into a rhythm. He never really got into a rhythm. And so that's what they need to give him work so he can do so. And I don't know if Gabriel doesn't get cleared, they got to get Sanders ready for next week. And at this point, I would think that's what you want is to give him the reps and get him some script plays that he does best.
While we continue the Shedeur conversation, let's go ahead and hear from QB1 today. Why not?
First and foremost, I want to thank God for giving me the opportunity to get out there. That's all you could ask for, honestly. The chance to get out there, get your feet wet, to experience how it feels, to even be out there with the team, with the first group, with everybody. So I truly was excited. I don't think I played good. I don't think I played good at all. I think it's a lot of things, we need to look at, during the week and go and just get comfortable even throwing routes, with Jerry and throwing routes with all those guys. So I think that was my first ball to him all year. But other than that, I just think overall we just got to go next week and understand so then we have a week to prepare stuff I like to do. The thing that I was excited about is just being able to get out there, It's the first time I got hit, since just my last game at Colorado. So just having that feeling back, is good. And, I feel fulfilled overall when it comes to being out there practicing, going in between the lines, seeing actually what it's like. And I know I'm made for it, I don't think it was a doubt in my mind that final drive was going to go down there, score. Things happened, we didn't, but I was just excited because I knew what I was going to be able to do out there. And for the team, for the linemen, and even getting snaps from Poe, that was amazing. Going out there in a live game, being able to do that with him, and the way the guys, the way the O-line, running back, receivers, defense, all right around. That's all you can ask for a quarterback.
All right, well, Shedeur Sanders. I liked what he had. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say one thing that I think is pretty cool, and I think that we can be excited about necessarily, is the fact that what Tommy Rees and Shedeur Sanders can create, right? We saw a couple of plays out there, even though these plays were not exactly designed for him. We got a little bit of a glimpse of, okay, if they do have this week, this is what can happen, when it comes to Tommy and him. But at the same time, I know we want a week to prepare him. They also need to make sure he's getting some practice with the ones in case something happens. Get him in there. So if he needs to go in for Dylan, if they decide, hey, Dylan's going to start and Dylan gets knocked out for some reason and we're in the same position we're in right now, that he's got some repertoire with, these receivers rather than going out there and just.
Well, I'm sure he already will be, because if Gabriel's going through the protocol, it's going to be Shedeur getting all the reps this week until otherwise they're going to be treating him.
And that's what Stefanski said right now. If Dylan does clear protocol, then he will be the starter against the Las Vegas Raiders. If not, then Shedeur is that guy who will be making his first NFL start.
Typically, they're not cleared that quick.
Right.
That Wednesday at the first day of practice, Sanders would take the reps with the first team, probably for the first time than in the game. With that said, but it's very risky to go into the game with only the two rookies. You said there, if Sanders would have got hurt or had to be checked for, they had no quarterback because they didn't make Zappe active. So, all the way around, I just think I liked the way he handled things afterwards. He looked at times, maybe he was a little overwhelmed. He was smiling and said, no, he's confident now after being out there and that he can do this. And you like that confidence. And he said he can only go up. And so I'm kind of anxious, want to see more. I like that he takes shots. He threw the ball in the end zone 3 times. That's what was
exciting. Yeah, we had deep shots. That's so exciting. And
he needs to learn to dump off a little bit. But, yeah, They had 3 throws into the end zone. Should have had a touchdown.
Yep.
And so I want to see some more of that. And so maybe this will be the way he backs into getting his chance. You play the Raiders on the road.
Well, Mark, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just feel like, why not see if he can build on this?
I completely, because it's not fair to look at this tiny sample size with no prep before, right? And he did show us some things that were exciting. So I would like to see if he gets a full week of prep. We know Mark Schwab isn't here, but I do have a true false from him. We can do it after the commercial break if you want.
You know what? I really like the way that you just transitioned into that. We'll be right back.
You ready for it?
Yeah, we're ready.
From
Go
Mark
ahead.
Schwab, he texted it to me. He's not here. He's actually putting his kiddos to sleep. Or
this is the true or false question.
He'd be working a crazy long day. Here we go. True, false. Well, he gave me 2. He said ladies' choice. Let me decide. Okay, true,
I'm about
false.
to say you have
true,
to
false.
decide.
I know. True, false. This game proved the Browns have been correct to not play Sanders.
Wow. I don't know.
I'll say true.
I'm going to have to let you take that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
I'll say
so.
true just because I saw what I think he needs to work on, and that's where, he has the tendency to drift and to turn his back, and you can't do that in the NFL. They run you down. They're just as fast as he is, and maybe in college they weren't. But that's where I just say if you design some quick hitting plays, like boom, he's very accurate, and put him in those positions where he's not having to be throwing 3rd and long, 3rd and 10, get 4 or 5 yards right out of the gate and move the ball and try to not have to put him in those long positions. And I think that's where the game, they knew they stacked the box against the run and were forcing him to throw. So I just think a little more experience, and that's where I was encouraged. The last drive, he looked like he had already made strides adapting.
I think there was a lot of promise. I would say true in the sense that he looked like a 5th-round pick that was seeing his first NFL action. And that doesn't mean that he's bad or that Dylan Gabriel is leaps and bounds ahead of him. It just means he needs to get experience, right? That's experience with the ones. That's actual NFL game action. He talked about it, like just to get hit again and feel that. He was like, I don't know if I've really gotten hit since my last game at Colorado. So he was like, to actually get hit and just be out there. And he was like, even just to have Poe like snap the ball to me. He was like, just those like little things to be able to actually get out there and do that makes a world of a difference. So it was encouraging because we could be singing a totally different tune right now if he did complete that pass and it was a touchdown and he was the savior that went and won the Browns this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just think, like, picking back off what you guys said, he just needs reps. It's just that simple. And yes, true. I think to Mark's question, it is true. But at the same time, I think if you give him, some experience and let him get out there, then I do think that he can improve. But we're not going to see that if he's not getting reps with the ones and he's not being put in that position, right? Really good to go up against a Baltimore defense, right? You want him to go up against a good defense, and that's what he was able to do today. So
Well, think about the parallels. Remember Deshaun Watson when he couldn't play and they threw DTR with an hour and a half prep to go against the Ravens and they swallowed him up. Well, that's similar with Sanders. He didn't have the prep. He gets thrown in. He finds out at halftime he's in. And I think he fared pretty well. I mean, those stats don't look good, but very similar to how DTR got baptized by fire. So, like you said, I'm encouraged to see what he can do. And yet at this point, you feel like you have an idea of Gabriel. Sure, he's got a lot of room to grow, but I do already see a higher ceiling for Sanders than Gabriel. And so let's see a few more games with him and see if he can continue to make progress. You feel like Gabriel hasn't made a lot of progress. Okay, let's see. What do you got to lose now? You're 2-8. Hold Gabriel out even if he clears. Prep now, since he's been in there, Sanders all week, go out and play a bad Raiders team and see what he can do against them.
Right.
yeah, because I mean, when you look at it, like you said, what do you have to lose by doing it? And that's why I'm like, it doesn't have to be where you play one or the other. I don't understand why. Again, it can't just be, okay, we're going to play a little bit of Shedeur. We're going to play some Dylan. I don't know. We're going to sprinkle a little in Deshaun Watson because we got that drama too. Are they going to open up the window for Deshaun? Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. What Stefanski said last week, they're like, I'm not sure if we're going to do that. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that they can do. But I do think this is a little sample size of like, let this guy play. Now, one thing I will say, being at that game, Fred, you were there as well. The way that crowd erupted when Shedeur went out there. We had already got the inkling. We already got, the notification. Hey, Shedeur's going to be going out there. Dylan's in the protocol. Okay, boom. But to see the crowd that doesn't know that and he comes out, it was crazy. And then along with that, I almost just lost my freaking point. But there was one point where I want to say he had a pass, and I can't remember who was complete to, and he was about to run up running down the field to put it up, and they're like, "Oh wait, no, come back to the huddle."
Yeah, you got.
I'm like, this is where you have to learn. Yeah, this is where you have to learn. Like, nah, you're in the league now. You can't be running up down there and putting your hand up. Like, you got to get back to the huddle. But we're gonna wrap up this Shedeur Sanders conversation. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna look ahead to the schedule. All right, so we know that the Browns in Week 12 are going to be taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Then after that, they're back home against the 49ers, and then they've got the Titans, Bears on the road, and then Bills at home, Steelers, and Bengals. But let's just look at the next three rather than trying to go that far out. We've got the Raiders next week who aren't very good, right? Then they've got the 49ers at home, and then the Titans as well at home. Fred, is there a chance to get that third win in there somewhere?
Oh, definitely. I mean, of the 5-game stretch I talked about last week, the Jets and then the Ravens was, I felt, the toughest one. 49ers, but 2 of the 3 are doable. You know, you're in no man's land now. If you're looking for the top quarterback or 2 in the draft, you win too many games, then you're going to fall out of that. But I do think this week's game against the Raiders is very winnable, and the Titans game at home is very winnable. And that's where you kind of like to see, okay, let's get Sanders ready and give him your best shot. You can always go back to Gabriel if he doesn't, go out and ball out. So
I think if you have your defense continuing to play like we saw against the Ravens, you have special teams making plays as opposed to costing you like we saw against the Jets. If we can if you just trade one of those field goals for a touchdown, this is a different game we're talking. So, yeah, maybe that next step is getting Shedeur a full week of prep. Without prep with the ones, he still could have gone and won the Browns this game. So I think that's a real positive that they can hold on to. Like you said, Raiders aren't a good team. And so after a full week of prep, of course they could go and win this game, or they could take Titans or any of these.
Yeah, I want to say Raiders are also on a short week as well. They're going to be playing against the Cowboys. I want to say, is that Monday Night Football? I want to say that's let me
Ashley's going to fact check herself.
Let me fact check myself. I want to say that I am correct.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, so tomorrow. Yeah. They're going to also be on a short week, so who knows, maybe that helps them out, helps the Browns out a little bit. But yeah, I think the Raiders are, like you said, 2 out of 3. I think the Raiders are a winnable game, and for sure the Titans are a winnable game. 49ers, I think it's a toss-up depending, how they're playing that week. But it would be great to see them pass 3 wins this year just to get that third, that fourth win and be like, okay, do I think it changes the outcome of maybe what happens with Stefanski and company? Who knows? But I think unless you're going out and you're winning the next, 7 games, I don't really foresee that.
You can't. You have to win every game to even be above 500 now. And
which is not happening.
It's not happening. But you want to be playing your best in the second half of the season. You want to feel at the end of this year that there's something going, whether it's Gabriel or Sanders, so you have something going into the offseason and not this just play out 7 games, and get, and like last year and look terrible down the stretch. So that's what they have in front of them. And if one of these guys, if Sanders takes the job and runs with it, that's going to take the Watson deal off the table. Same way if Gabriel come back. But so far, that hasn't happened. I mean, Sanders was the shiny object that hadn't played, so everybody's expecting. It's kind of like an unwrapped present over in the corner. You think that could be the key. Well, we didn't see enough to know if he has the potential to be that guy. But I do want to see more. So you have the opportunity this week to take advantage and go make something happen.
I don't think Stefanski, did he say we have to be better? Maybe.
I didn't hear that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was in the locker room when he was talking.
I think he's working on that, because I had the over-under,
Yeah.
It was kind of funny watching him, on the sideline because I couldn't tell if he was really excited that Sanders was out there or he was just like, I don't have no choice but to deal that Sanders is out here. I really can't read it with him.
I really think that they like him, but they don't want him to get overwhelmed and look bad and lose confidence. I don't think he lost his confidence at all today.
All right. Well, the Ravens take down the Browns 23-16. We'll be back next week to break down the Browns and Raiders. Make sure you like this podcast wherever you get it, and you subscribe and you download. For myself, Ashley Holder, Leah Doherty, and Fred Greetham, this is Off the Leash.